You're going to regret this." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Seo Yon Huang stood in the center of her penthouse surrounded by shattered glass, her eyes cold enough to freeze blood. She was the woman everyone in Atlanta's underworld feared. The woman who'd ended careers with a phone call and lives with a nod, and Naledi Taiwo, a minimum wage cleaner still wearing her work uniform, looked her dead in the eye and said the 5 words that changed everything. You definitely want to stick around for this one because it's absolutely wild how a woman scrubbing toilets at 3 in the morning became the only person brave enough to stand up to the most feared family in Atlanta. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my stories because they're all this intense. Comment fearless if you're ready for this journey. Let's get into it. Naledi Taiwo was on her knees scrubbing the marble floor of the penthouse bathroom when she heard the screaming start. It was 3:15 in the morning on a Tuesday. She'd been cleaning the luxury residences at the Pinnacle Tower for exactly 6 months, working the graveyard shift because it paid an extra $2 an hour. $2 meant the difference between sending money home to her grandmother in Accra and having to tell Nana Abena that the medicine would have to wait another month. $2 meant her younger brother Jabari could buy his textbooks instead of sharing copies at the library. $2 was everything. The screaming was coming from the living room. A woman's voice, sharp and venomous, spitting words in Korean that Naledi didn't understand but recognized as cruelty in any language. Then a crash, glass shattering against hardwood, more screaming. Naledi's supervisor had been crystal clear during training 3 weeks in. You hear something, you see nothing. You finish your work, you leave. These people value their privacy and you value your job. Understand? She'd understood. She had bills to pay that didn't care about her conscience. A grandmother who'd raised her after her parents died in a bus accident when she was 14. A younger brother trying to finish his last year at Georgia State on a patchwork of loans and scholarships that never quite covered everything. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not when she was already working doubles at a cafe in Midtown just to make rent. But then she heard crying. Soft and broken and terrified. The sound of someone who'd been hurt before and knew they'd be hurt again. The sound of someone who'd stopped believing anyone would help. Naledi stood up, her knees protesting after 2 hours of scrubbing floors and bathrooms that cost more to install than she'd make in 5 years. She should walk away. Mind her business, finish the bathroom and move to the next unit like she was supposed to. Instead, she walked toward the living room. The penthouse belonged to the Huang family. Naledi knew because the nameplate on the door said so in both English and Korean characters. She knew because the other cleaners whispered about them in the break room during shift changes. Old money, new money, dangerous money, the kind of people you didn't ask questions about if you wanted to keep breathing. She rounded the corner and froze. A woman stood in the center of the living room surrounded by shattered glass that had probably been expensive crystal minutes ago. She was maybe 25. Beautiful in that untouchable way that came from a lifetime of expensive skincare and designer clothes and never hearing the word no. Her cream suit was immaculate despite the destruction around her. Her hair was pulled back so tight it had to hurt. Her face was a mask of controlled rage that made Naledi's stomach drop. This was Seo Yon Huang. Everyone knew about Seo Yon even if you tried not to know. On the floor, cowering against the white leather couch that probably cost more than a car, was a young man. Maybe 19 or 20. Blood trickled from his nose where she'd obviously hit him. His shirt was torn. He was crying silently, his shoulders shaking with the effort of trying not to make sound. Pathetic. Seo Yon hissed the word in English probably for his benefit. You think you can steal from my family? You think we wouldn't notice? I didn't steal anything, I swear. I was just... She kicked him. Not hard enough to break ribs, but hard enough to hurt. Hard enough to humiliate. Hard enough that the young man curled in on himself like he was trying to disappear. Stop lying to me. Naledi should leave. This was none of her business. These were not her people, not her problem, not her world. She was just a help, invisible, replaceable. But her grandmother's voice echoed in her head. The same words Nana Abina had told her since childhood, in Twi, and then in English when they'd immigrated. When you see wickedness and say nothing, you become part of it. Excuse me. The words came out quieter than Naledi intended, but they cut through the room like a gunshot. Seo Yan's head snapped toward her so fast Naledi almost flinched. Those eyes were like chips of ice, assessing and dismissing her in the same glance, taking in the cleaning uniform with the company logo, the cheap sneakers, the dark skin that marked Naledi as even more out of place in this world of power and privilege. "Who the hell are you? I'm with the cleaning service. I heard." "Then clean and get out." Seo Yan's English was perfect, American accented, probably from expensive private schools. "This doesn't concern you." The young man on the floor looked at Naledi with desperate, pleading eyes. "Help me," that look said. "Please." "I'm so sorry to ask, but please." Naledi took a breath, thought about her bills, thought about the $2 an hour, thought about how badly she needed this job. Then she thought about being 14 and watching her parents' coffins lowered into the ground and deciding that life was too short to be a coward. "I can't do that." Her voice was steady now, stronger. "Not while you're hurting him." The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Naledi could hear her own heartbeat, could hear the young man's ragged breathing, could hear the hum of the expensive air conditioning system keeping this palace comfortable. Seo Yan laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. It was the kind of laugh that preceded violence. "You can't be serious. Do you have any idea who I am? I know you're hurting someone who can't fight back." Naledi kept her hands loose at her sides, kept her shoulders relaxed even though every muscle wanted to tense. "I know that makes you a bully. I don't care who you are." Later, Naledi would wonder what possessed her. Maybe exhaustion from working 16-hour days. Maybe homesickness making her reckless. Maybe just the fact that she was tired of watching powerful people hurt those who couldn't, defend themselves while everyone else looked away. Maybe she was just tired of being invisible. Seo Yan took a step toward her. Even in heels, they were nearly the same height, but Seo Yan carried herself like she owned the air she breathed, like gravity bent around her will. "You're going to regret this." "Maybe." Naledi met her eyes and didn't look away. "But at least I'll sleep tonight." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The young man had stopped crying, watching this confrontation like he couldn't quite believe it was happening. Somewhere in the building, a door opened and closed. Life continued while these three people stood frozen in this moment. Then Seo Yan's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Get him out of my sight. Take him downstairs. If I see his face again, you're both finished." It wasn't mercy. It was dismissal. But Naledi didn't wait for her to change her mind. She crossed to the young man and helped him to his feet. He was shaking so hard he could barely stand. She got her shoulder under his arm, taking most of his weight, and guided him toward the door. She could feel Seo Yan's eyes on her back the entire way. Could feel the weight of that stare like a target painted between her shoulder blades. In the elevator, the young man finally spoke. His voice was rough from crying. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that. You don't even know me. Are you okay? Do you need a hospital?" "No, I'll be fine." He wiped blood from his nose with his sleeve, wincing. "She's right, though. I did steal. Just small amounts from the cash counts at one of their clubs. I thought they wouldn't notice. I needed the money for my sister's tuition, and I was stupid and desperate, and now I've probably gotten you killed too. Nobody's getting killed." Naledi said it with more confidence than she felt. The elevator descended smoothly, silently, all polished brass and mirrors. "What's your name?" "Marcus. I'm Naledi." "Where do you live, Marcus?" "Decatur." "But I can't go home. They know where I live. They know everything." The elevator doors opened onto the lobby. It was deserted at this hour except for the security guard who carefully didn't look at them. Naledi walked Marcus outside into the humid Atlanta night. "You have somewhere safe you can go? Friends? Family? Maybe my cousin in Marietta. He doesn't know about any of this." Naledi pulled out her phone and ordered him a rideshare. Used money she didn't really have to spare. When the car pulled up, she made Marcus promise to get somewhere safe and stay there. "Thank you." He said it again, looking at her like she was something miraculous instead of just a tired woman who couldn't walk away. "I don't know why you helped me, but thank you." After he left, Naledi stood on the sidewalk trying to convince herself she hadn't just destroyed her life. She was wrong about nobody getting killed, but she didn't know that yet. The next morning, Naledi's supervisor called her into the office before her shift. His face was gray, his hands shaking slightly as he slid a piece of paper across the desk. A termination notice. "You're fired, effective immediately." Naledi's stomach dropped. The world tilted. "What? Why?" "The Huang family requested your termination." Mr. Peterson, that was her supervisor's name, wouldn't meet her eyes. "They didn't give a reason, and I didn't ask for one." "I can't ask for one. You understand? I don't want to know." He finally looked at her and there was genuine fear in his eyes. "Clean out your locker. Security will escort you out." And Naledi, whatever you did, whatever you saw, forget it. These people don't forget, and they don't forgive. She'd known this might happen, had known since the moment she opened her mouth in that penthouse, but knowing didn't make it easier when she had to call Jabari from the parking lot and tell him she couldn't help with rent this month. "Ada, it's okay." Her brother's voice was worried. "We'll figure it out. I can pick up more hours at the campus bookstore. You're supposed to be studying, not working yourself to death." Says the woman who works 2 jobs. Worked, past tense. Naledi leaned her head against her steering wheel. "I'm so sorry, Jabari. Don't be sorry. Just be careful. These Huang people, I've heard things. Please be careful." That night, Naledi calculated her savings. 3 weeks, maybe 4 if she was very careful, if she stopped sending money home, if she ate rice and beans for every meal, if she got very lucky. She spent the next 2 days applying for every job she could find. Restaurants, retail, cleaning services, anything. But something was wrong. Places that had been hiring suddenly weren't. Interviews that seemed promising ended abruptly when managers stepped away to make calls and came back with changed expressions and apologies. She wasn't blacklisted exactly, but she might as well have been. The Huang family had reach. Long reach. And they wanted her to know it. On the 3rd day, a black car pulled up while Naledi was walking home from another failed interview. The window rolled down smoothly, revealing a man in an expensive suit with an earpiece and the kind of expressionless face that came from seeing too much. "Miss Taiwo, Mr. Huang would like to speak with you." Every survival instinct Naledi had screamed at her to run, to pretend she didn't hear, to disappear into the crowd and never look back. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Which Mr. Huang?" "Min Jae Huang, Seoyun's brother." The name meant something. Even Naledi, who tried to stay as far away from Atlanta's underground as possible, had heard whispers about Min Jae Huang, the young boss who'd taken over his father's organization 5 years ago and turned it into an empire. Ruthless, brilliant, dangerous, the kind of man you cross the street to avoid. "And if I refuse?" The man's expression didn't change. Didn't need to. Mr. Huang doesn't like to be refused. Naledi thought about her grandmother's words, thought about the terrified young man she'd helped, thought about the fact that she had nothing left to lose anyway. "Fine. Let's go." The car's interior smelled like leather and something expensive she couldn't identify. The seats were more comfortable than her bed. The windows were tinted so dark she couldn't see out, couldn't see where they were taking her. The driver didn't speak. The man who'd invited her didn't speak. The silence was deliberate, designed to make her nervous. It worked. The drive took 30 minutes but felt like hours. When they finally stopped, they were in Koreatown. The car had pulled up behind a restaurant that looked closed, dark except for security lights. "This way, please." The man opened her door, waited. The lady climbed out on shaking legs and followed him through a back entrance, down a hallway that smelled like sesame oil and ginger, into the main dining room. It was empty except for a single table in the back where a man sat reading something on a tablet. He didn't look up when Naledi approached, didn't acknowledge her presence at all for a long 30 seconds. Then he spoke. "Sit." Naledi sat. Min-jae Hwang was younger than she'd expected, 30 at most, with sharp features and an air of controlled intensity that made the air around him feel heavy. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than Naledi made in 6 months. His hair was styled perfectly. His watch was the kind people insured separately. He still didn't look up from his tablet. "You confronted my sister 3 nights ago." It wasn't a question. His voice was quiet, measured. More dangerous than Seo Yeon's rage somehow. "You stopped her from disciplining someone who stole from our family. You cost yourself your job. I'm trying to understand why." He was scared. She was hurting him. It was wrong. Now Min-jae looked up. His eyes were different from his sister's. Darker, harder to read, but just as intense. Wrong. Interesting word choice. "He stole from us, Miss Taiwo. In my world, that has consequences. In my world, stealing doesn't give you the right to beat someone." "Your world." He repeated it like the words amused him. "And what world is that? One where we solve problems without violence." Naledi's hands were shaking in her lap, but her voice stayed steady. "Where we have empathy. Where we remember that everyone's fighting battles we can't see." Beautiful sentiment. Min-jae set down his tablet, giving her his full attention. Completely useless in reality, but beautiful. "My sister wants you dealt with. She says you humiliated her, made her look weak in front of someone she was handling. She's demanding I make an example of you." Naledi's mouth went dry, but she kept her chin up. "So deal with me. I knew the risks when I opened my mouth. Did you? Because I don't think you did." Min-jae leaned forward slightly. "I don't think you have any idea what my sister is capable of when she feels disrespected. What I'm capable of. The people who cross the Hwang family don't usually get the opportunity to regret it. Then, tell me." "What are you going to do?" Naledi heard herself say. "Beat me up? Make me disappear? Do what you have to do. I'm not going to apologize for standing up to a bully." The silence stretched between them. Naledi could hear her own heartbeat again, could hear the hum of refrigerators somewhere in the back, could hear traffic outside, the normal world continuing while she sat here possibly negotiating for her life. Then Min-jae did something unexpected. He smiled. "My sister said you were either brave or stupid." He poured tea from a pot Naledi hadn't noticed, sliding a cup toward her. "I wasn't sure which until now." "And?" "You're brave. Stupidly brave, but brave nonetheless." He took a sip of his own tea. "That's valuable. Is that supposed to comfort me before you kill me?" "I'm not going to kill you, Miss Taiwo. I'm going to offer you a job." Naledi blinked, stared at him, wondered if she'd heard correctly. "What?" "My sister's out of control." Min-jae said it matter-of-factly like discussing the weather. "She's always been volatile, but since our father died 2 years ago, she's gotten worse. She sees threats everywhere. She hurts people for minor infractions. She's making enemies that could destroy everything we've built. You're the first person in 5 years who stood up to her. That's valuable. You want me to—" "What? Babysit your sister? I want you to work in my organization, close to Seo Yeon. Someone needs to keep her in check, and clearly my people are too afraid to do it." He gestured at her with his teacup. "You're not. I have no experience in your world. I'm a cleaner. You're observant, you're principled, and you're brave enough to speak truth to power." Min-jae set down his cup. "That's worth more than experience. You'll manage the legitimate side of Seo Yun's operations, restaurants, clubs, import businesses, make sure she's not letting her temper interfere with profit. You'll report directly to me. Why would I work for you? For her? After everything? Because I'm offering you $80,000 a year plus benefits. Because I'll cover your brother's remaining tuition. Because I'll make sure your grandmother in Ghana gets the medical care she needs without you having to choose between her medicine and your rent. Naledi's heart stopped. How do you know about Nana Abena? I know everything, Miss Taiwo. It's my job to know. Min Jae's expression didn't change. I know you send home $400 every month. I know your brother is one semester from graduating with a degree in computer science. I know your grandmother has hypertension and the medication costs more than your family can easily afford. I know you're 3 weeks from being evicted if you don't find work. The casual display of knowledge should have terrified her. Maybe it did. But it also told her something important. Min Jae Hwang didn't make careless moves. If he was offering this, he meant it. And Seo Yun? She'd be okay with this? She doesn't have a choice. Something cold flashed across his face. I run this family, not her. She'll accept it or face consequences she won't enjoy. There was something ruthless in his voice that reminded Naledi exactly who she was dealing with. These weren't good people. This wasn't a good world, but the money he was offering was more than she could make in 2 years of cleaning. Enough to secure her grandmother's medical care for years. Enough to let Jabari focus on school instead of scrambling for work-study jobs. Enough to change everything. I need to think about it. You have 24 hours. Min Jae stood, signaling the meeting was over. After that, the offer expires and you're on your own. My sister holds grudges, Miss Taiwo. Without my protection, I can't guarantee your safety. It was a threat wrapped in an offer wrapped in concern. Naledi recognized it for what it was: manipulation, control. But she also recognized an opportunity when she saw one. She took the job. 24 hours later, Naledi stood in Min Jae's office in a building in Midtown signing paperwork that probably bound her to more than she understood. David, Min Jae's second-in-command, walked her through the basics. You'll start with Seo Yun's restaurant portfolio. 3 locations in Atlanta, 2 in the suburbs. Review the books, meet the managers, get a sense of operations. David was maybe 40, Korean-American, with kind eyes that seemed out of place in this world. Then you'll move to the clubs. That's where things get complicated. Complicated how? Complicated like don't ask questions you don't want answers to. He handed her a folder. The restaurants are legitimate. Fully legal, fully taxed, fully clean. Focus on those. The boss wants you on the legal side only. And the illegal side doesn't concern you unless someone tries to make it concern you. Then you come to me. Or Mr. Hwang immediately. Understand? Naledi nodded, flipping through the folder. Financial statements, employee rosters, inspection reports. It looked normal, almost boring. One more thing. David's voice went serious. Miss Hwang doesn't know you're starting today. The boss wanted you to have a day to get oriented before you two interact again. Use that time wisely. Working for Min Jae Hwang was like learning to swim by jumping into the ocean during a storm. Naledi's first week was a crash course in the Hwang family's operations. The legitimate businesses were just the surface. Restaurants that actually served food and paid taxes. Nightclubs that actually hosted parties. Import companies that actually imported goods. But beneath that was a network of gambling dens, protection rackets, and money laundering schemes that made her head spin. She'd hear things in passing, see things she wasn't supposed to see, learn things she couldn't unlearn. She kept her head down and focused on the restaurants like she'd been told. The numbers told stories if you knew how to read them. Inventory that didn't match purchases. Cash deposits that fluctuated wildly. Employee turnover that was astronomical even for the restaurant industry. Don't worry about the illegal stuff, David told her again at the end of her first week. You're strictly on the clean side. The boss wants you focused on keeping Miss Huang's businesses profitable and keeping her from killing the employees." That last part wasn't a joke. Naledi learned quickly that Seo Yan ran her operations like a tyrant. Employees were terrified of her. She'd fire people for minor mistakes, threaten them for asking questions, humiliate them publicly when things went wrong. The turnover rate at her clubs was astronomical because nobody wanted to work for her longer than they had to. She's brilliant. One of the restaurant managers confided to Naledi during her second week. A woman named Patricia who'd worked for the family for 5 years. Best head for business I've ever seen. She can look at a P&L and spot problems instantly. She understands hospitality, understands what makes a space work, but she's also terrifying. You never know when she's going to snap. Has she ever— Naledi hesitated. Has she ever actually hurt anyone? Patricia's expression went carefully blank. I don't answer questions like that. You shouldn't ask them. Naledi saw it firsthand her third week when a bartender at one of Seo Yan's clubs shorted the register by $50. An honest mistake. He'd given wrong change to a customer, gotten confused during a rush. $50 out of thousands in nightly revenue. Seo Yan had him brought to her office and spent 20 minutes screaming at him in front of the entire staff, threatening everything from firing to legal action to things Naledi didn't want to think about. The bartender stood there shaking, near tears, apologizing over and over. Naledi watched from the doorway where she'd been reviewing inventory counts, watched this brilliant, beautiful woman destroy someone over $50, watched the other employees keep their heads down, grateful it wasn't them. When Seo Yan finally dismissed the bartender, who practically ran from the office, Naledi stepped inside. What do you want? Seo Yan snapped without looking up from her computer. That was excessive. He made an honest mistake. Now, Seo Yan looked up. Her eyes went cold with recognition. You're still here? I assumed you'd have quit by now. I don't quit easily. Naledi closed the door behind her. And someone needs to tell you when you're wrong. I'm never wrong. You were wrong just now. Naledi kept her voice level, professional. You humiliated a good employee over $50. Now he's going to spend more energy being afraid of you than focused on his work. That's bad business. Seo Yan stood up slowly, walking around her desk toward Naledi with deliberate steps. Each footfall measured, predatory. You have a lot of nerve talking to me like this. My brother might have hired you, but I can make your life miserable. You can try, Naledi said quietly. But I've survived worse than you. It was true. Naledi had lost her parents at 14, had helped raise Jabari while barely more than a child herself, had worked 3 jobs to send money home while putting herself through community college classes she could barely afford, had immigrated to a country that didn't always welcome people who looked like her, who sounded like her, who came from where she came from. Seo Yan Huang was terrifying, but she wasn't the scariest thing Naledi had faced. Something flickered across Seo Yan's face. Surprise, maybe, or respect. It was gone too quickly to identify. Get out of my office. After you apologize to the bartender. Excuse me? You heard me. Naledi met her eyes steadily. Apologize. Show your employees you're capable of admitting when you're wrong. It'll earn their loyalty, faster than fear ever will. For a moment, Naledi thought Seo Yan might actually hit her. Her hands clenched into fists. Her jaw went tight with barely controlled rage. A muscle ticked in her temple. Then she took a breath and smiled coldly. Fine, I'll apologize. But you're coming with me. I want witnesses when I prove you wrong about loyalty. Except Naledi wasn't wrong. When Seo Yan pulled the bartender aside 10 minutes later and gave a stiff, clearly uncomfortable apology, his entire demeanor changed. The fear in his eyes faded, replaced by something like gratitude, like hope. He stood straighter, looked at her like she was human instead of a monster. Thank you, Miss Huang. His voice was thick with emotion. I promise it won't happen again. I'll be more careful. Thank you for giving me another chance." After he left, Seo-yeon turned to Naledi with an unreadable expression. "Don't think this changes anything." But it did change something. Naledi could see it in the way Seo-yeon watched her now. Less like an annoyance to be swatted away and more like a puzzle to be solved. Like someone who'd done something unexpected. Like someone who might be worth paying attention to. Min-jae noticed the shift, too. "You're still alive," he commented one evening when Naledi was delivering weekly reports to his office. "I'm impressed. Most people don't survive 2 weeks of questioning my sister. Maybe I'm just too stubborn to die." He looked up from his paperwork, something almost amused in his eyes. "Or maybe she respects you. Seo-yeon doesn't respond well to fear. Everyone's so terrified of her they just enable her worst impulses. You push back. She doesn't know what to do with that. Is that what you wanted? Someone to push back? I wanted someone who wouldn't let her destroy everything our father built." Min-jae's expression went distant, his focus shifting to somewhere Naledi couldn't see. She wasn't always like this. Before our father died, she was different. Ambitious, yes. Intense, absolutely. But not cruel. His death broke something in her. How did he die? Betrayed by someone he trusted. Min-jae's voice went flat, empty of all emotion in a way that was somehow worse than anger. Shot in the back by his own second-in-command during a meeting that was supposed to be about expansion. Seo-yeon found him. She was the one who held him while he died. She was 23 years old, and she watched our father bleed out in her arms, begging her to be strong. After that, she decided trust was weakness. Mercy was weakness. Anything except absolute control was weakness. Naledi felt something shift in her chest. Not quite sympathy, but understanding. "And you? How did you handle it?" "By becoming exactly what I needed to be to keep us alive. Cold, calculating, ruthless when necessary." He looked at her directly, his gaze heavy with meaning. "I'm not a good man, Miss Taiwo. Don't mistake my civility for kindness. I've done terrible things to protect this family. I've hurt people who didn't deserve it. I've made choices that keep me awake at night. I never thought you were good." Naledi said it honestly, without judgment. "But I don't think you're just bad either. People are complicated. Is that what you tell yourself, to justify working for us?" "I tell myself I'm doing what I have to do to take care of my family, just like you." Something passed between them, a moment of mutual recognition. They were both people shaped by obligation, by the weight of family expectations, by the need to protect those they loved at any cost. "My sister likes you," Min-jae said finally, returning to his paperwork. "She'd never admit it, but she does. She hasn't fired you or threatened you in almost a week. That's a record. Lucky me. Actually, yes." Min-jae's tone went serious. "Seo-yeon doesn't like many people, doesn't trust anyone. If you've gotten past her defenses even a little, that's significant." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Just be careful. My sister's loyalty is fierce, but so is her capacity for betrayal if she thinks you've crossed her." The warning echoed in Naledi's mind over the following weeks as she continued navigating the complicated dynamics of the Hwang family organization. She learned the rhythms of their world, how Min-jae ran the family's operations with clinical efficiency, making decisions based on profit margins and risk assessment rather than emotion. Every choice calculated, every move planned 3 steps ahead. He was like watching a chess master play against opponents who didn't even know they were in the game. Seo-yeon was different. She managed her territories like a general at war, viewing every interaction as a potential battle to be won or lost. Every slight was an attack. Every question was a challenge. Every moment was an opportunity to prove she couldn't be controlled. The siblings barely spoke despite working in the same organization. They communicated mostly through intermediaries like Naledi, trading reports and decisions but rarely occupying the same room for more than necessary. They used to be close. David told Naledi one afternoon over coffee in the break room. Before their father died, they were inseparable as kids. Seo-yeon would take punishments meant for Min-jae. He'd cover for her when she broke rules. They had each other's backs completely. After the murder, though, I don't know what happened between them, but something broke. They can't seem to be in the same space without it ending in fights. What do they fight about? Everything. Nothing. David stirred his coffee absently. Control. Respect. The past. It's like they're speaking different languages now. Both hurting, but neither one able to say it in a way the other can hear. Naledi saw evidence of that tension when Min-jae called a rare family meeting to discuss expansion into new territories. Senior members of the organization gathered in a private room at one of the restaurants. Naledi was there to take notes, to observe, to learn. Seo-yeon arrived 20 minutes late, her expression already hostile. She dropped into a chair without greeting her brother or acknowledging anyone else. This better be important. Her voice could have cut glass. It is. Min-jae's tone was professionally neutral, but Naledi could see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. We have an opportunity to expand into the Northeast Corridor. New clubs, new revenue streams. I want your input on locations. My input. Seo-yeon repeated it mockingly. When have you ever actually listened to my input? Every time you give it without trying to start a fight. I'm not the one who starts fights. You're the one who undermines every decision I make, who questions every choice, who treats me like I'm still a child who needs supervision. Enough. Min-jae's voice cut through her words like a blade. We're here to discuss business, not relitigate old arguments. Seo-yeon's jaw clenched. Her hands gripped the arms of her chair so tight her knuckles went white. Fine. But I'm managing the new locations. I'm not having you micromanage my territory like you always do. I micromanage because you let your temper interfere with business decisions. And you're a controlling bastard who can't stand that I might actually be better at this than you. The room fell silent. The other family members stared at the table, at their phones, at anything except the siblings. Naledi, sitting in the corner with her laptop, held her breath. Better than me? Min-jae's voice went dangerously quiet. You're so busy terrorizing employees and making enemies that half your businesses are barely profitable. If it weren't for Miss Taiwo running interference, you'd have lost 3 of your top managers by now. Don't you dare bring her into this. Seo-yeon stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. She works for me, not you. She works for the family, which I run. Or have you forgotten? How could I forget when you remind me every chance you get? Seo-yeon's voice broke slightly, a crack in her armor. Father left you the family. You got everything, and You got businesses to run and money to make and a life. Min-jae interrupted, standing to face her. You got to stay alive while I had to become someone I hate to keep us both safe. You got to keep your principles while I made choices that destroyed mine. Don't talk to me about what you lost. The pain in both their voices was so raw that Naledi felt like an intruder witnessing something private, something that should have been said years ago in private instead of now in front of an audience. Seo-yeon's hands were shaking. I never asked you to protect me. You didn't have to ask. Min-jae's voice went soft, almost gentle. You're my sister. That's enough. For a moment, something softened in Seo-yeon's expression. A glimpse of the girl she'd been before grief and rage had hardened her into something, sharp and dangerous. Then the walls came back up and she grabbed her bag. I'll handle the Northeast expansion. Send me the details. She left without another word. The door closed behind her with a quiet click that felt louder than a slam. Min-jae sat in silence for a long moment, his hands pressed flat against the table. Then he looked at the other family members. We're done here. I'll send updates by end of week. They filed out quickly, grateful to escape the tension. Naledi started to follow, but Min-jae's voice stopped her. Stay, please. She sat back down, closing her laptop. Waited. I suppose you have opinions about what just happened. Minjo didn't look at her, his gaze fixed on the empty chair where his sister had been. You love each other. Naledi said it quietly, carefully. But you don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Very perceptive. Also completely useless. Maybe not. Naledi set her laptop aside. Maybe you need someone to help translate, to stand between you both and keep the conversations from exploding. Is that what you want to do? Play mediator between me and my sister? I want to help, if you'll let me. Why? Minjae finally looked at her, his expression unreadable. This isn't in your job description. You could keep your head down, do your work, collect your paycheck. Why involve yourself in our family drama? Naledi thought about her own relationship with Jabari, how they'd fought through grief and poverty and uncertainty but always found their way back to each other because family mattered more than pride. Because love was stronger than pain if you let it be. Because I've seen what happens when families let pain turn into distance. It destroys people from the inside out. She met his gaze steadily. You and Seo Yan are destroying yourselves. Someone needs to care enough to try to stop it. Something shifted in Minja's expression. Surprise, maybe, or gratitude, or something more complicated that he didn't have words for. You really are fearless, aren't you? Just stubborn. He almost smiled. There might not be a difference. From that day forward, Naledi became an unofficial bridge between the Huang siblings. It started small. When Seo Yan would send sharp, accusatory messages about resources or territory, Naledi would soften the edges before presenting them to Minjae. When Minjae would issue directives that sounded controlling, Naledi would explain the reasoning to Seo Yan in ways that helped her see the care behind the control. She became a translator for two people who spoke the same language but couldn't hear each other. It was exhausting, thankless work. Naledi would spend hours crafting emails that communicated needs without triggering defensiveness. She'd sit in meetings, taking notes and watching body language, learning to intervene before arguments escalated. She'd have separate conversations with each sibling, helping them understand what the other was really saying beneath the anger. But, slowly, impossibly, it started making a difference. The siblings began actually talking in meetings instead of just trading barbs. Seo Yan's businesses became more profitable as her employees relaxed under Naledi's steady influence. Minjae started delegating more authority to his sister, trusting her judgment in ways he hadn't before. And somewhere in the middle of all that, Naledi realized she'd stopped being afraid. She'd stopped seeing the Huang family as untouchable monsters and started seeing them as damaged people trying to survive in a broken world. It didn't excuse their choices, didn't make the violence and cruelty okay, but it helped her understand them, made them human instead of mythical. Seo Yan noticed the shift first. They were in her office late one evening, reviewing quarterly reports. The club operations were showing strong growth. Employee retention was up. Customer complaints were down. The numbers told a story of slow, steady improvement. You're not scared of me anymore. Seo Yan said it without looking up from the spreadsheet. Was I ever really scared of you? Yes. That first night when you confronted me in my penthouse. Seo Yan leaned back in her chair, studying Naledi with that unsettling intensity. I could see it in your eyes. Your hands were shaking. Your voice was steady, but your body betrayed you. You were terrified. But you did it anyway. Why? Because being scared isn't a good enough reason to let something wrong continue. Most people disagree with you. Seo Yan's voice was strange, almost curious. Most people let fear control everything they do. Fear of losing their job, fear of getting hurt, fear of standing out. They let it turn them into cowards. Most people haven't lost everything and learned they can survive it. Naledi said it quietly, thinking of her parents' funeral, of those first terrible months after. Fear is just fear. It can't actually kill you. No. Seo-yeon's smile was cold. But I could. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded almost like a test, like she was waiting to see if Naledi would flinch. You could. Naledi agreed, not looking away. But you won't. Because you're not actually a monster. You just play one because it's easier than letting people see you're hurt. Seo-yeon went very still. The air in the office felt suddenly thin. Don't psychoanalyze me. I'm not. I'm just stating the obvious. Naledi closed the financial report she'd been reviewing. Your father died dramatically. You were there. You held him while he bled out. That's unbearable pain. You decided never to be vulnerable again because vulnerability got him killed. It's a logical response to trauma, but it's also killing you slowly. You don't know anything about me. I know you work 16-hour days because sleeping means dreaming, and dreaming means remembering. Naledi kept her voice gentle, non-judgmental. I know you pick fights with your brother because fighting feels safer than admitting you miss him. I know you terrorize your employees because maintaining control is the only thing that makes you feel safe. And I know you're exhausted from pretending you don't need anyone. For the first time since they'd met, Naledi saw real vulnerability flash across Seo-yeon's face. Not anger, not contempt, just raw, naked pain that made her look years younger, like the 23-year-old girl who'd watched her father die. Then anger replaced it, familiar armor sliding back into place. Get out. Seo-yeon. I said, get out. Naledi left. But she knew she'd struck a nerve, and that mattered more than the temporary retreat. The next day, Seo-yeon didn't mention the conversation. But small things changed. She started asking Naledi's opinion on business decisions instead of just issuing orders. She apologized unprompted when she snapped at an employee over a scheduling conflict. She even showed up to a family meeting on time and kept her temper when Min-jae questioned one of her proposals. What did you do to my sister? Min-jae asked a week later. They were in his office late on a Friday evening, reviewing the week's numbers. Most of the staff had gone home. The building was quiet around them, Atlanta's skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Nothing. I just talked to her. Nobody just talks to Seo-yeon. Min-jae poured whiskey into 2 glasses, sliding one toward Naledi without asking if she wanted it. She either dismisses you or destroys you. There's no middle ground with her. Maybe she was tired of both options, Naledi suggested, accepting the drink. You've been with us for 3 months now. Min-jae took a sip of his whiskey, his expression thoughtful. I keep waiting for you to quit. To decide this world isn't for you and walk away. Would you let me? If I wanted to leave? Of course, you're not a prisoner. He paused, choosing his words. But you'd have to leave Atlanta. Too many people know you work for us now, know you have access to sensitive information. It would be complicated for you to stay. Translation meant dangerous. Naledi understood that. Understood that accepting this job had bound her to the Hwang family in ways that wouldn't easily untangle. I'm not planning to leave. Why not? You're smart enough to see what we really are, what I really am. Min-jae studied her over his glass. You've seen the edges of our world. You know the restaurants and clubs are just the surface. You know what's underneath. I've told you before. Naledi met his gaze steadily. People are complicated. Is that your answer for everything? It's the truth for everything. Min-jae studied her in that way he had, like he was reading a ledger instead of a person, calculating value and risk. But there was something else in his expression too, something almost like loneliness. Seo-yeon isn't the only one pretending. Naledi said it quietly, gently. Excuse me. You heard me. You act like you're this ruthless, emotionless boss, like nothing touches you, like you're made of ice and calculation. She gestured at him with her glass. But you pay for your employees' children's school supplies. You give bonuses when people are struggling. You remembered my brother's birthday last week and sent him a gift card to the bookstore. Jabari had called her crying with gratitude. A $200 gift card with a note that said, "For textbooks, not because you owe us, but because education matters." It had been signed simply M. "You care about people," Naledi continued. "You just don't want anyone to know it because in your world, caring is weakness." "Caring is weakness in my world," Minjae's voice was flat. "People use what you care about against you. My father cared about loyalty and it got him killed by someone he trusted. Caring is a liability I can't afford. That's what Seo Yan thinks too. Maybe that's why you're both so lonely." Minjae's expression went carefully blank, walls slamming into place. "You're overstepping." "Probably." Naledi stood up to leave, setting her empty glass on his desk. "But someone needs to." She paused at the door, looking back at him. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're a bad person, Minjae. I think you're a good person who's had to make bad choices. There's a difference." She left before he could respond. But something shifted between them after that conversation. Minjae started seeking Naledi out more often. Not for business reasons, but for conversation. He'd ask about her life in Ghana, about her grandmother's health, about Jabari's progress in school. He'd share stories about his childhood with Seo Yan, back when they were close. "She used to protect me," he said one evening when they were working late, the office empty around them. "When we were kids, I was quiet, bookish. I liked math and computers and reading. Our father wanted me to be tougher, more aggressive. Seo Yan would take the blame when I made mistakes, face our father's anger so I wouldn't have to. She was fearless even then." "What changed?" "I got older, strong enough to protect myself, smart enough to be valuable to our father's business." Minjae's voice was distant, lost in memory. But by then, our father had already decided I was the heir and she was just auxiliary. Support instead of leadership. She never forgave me for that. For taking what she thought should have been hers. "Have you told her you didn't want it either?" "Many times." "She doesn't believe me." Minjae laughed bitterly. "She thinks I'm lying to make her feel better. Thinks I wanted the power and the control all along. Maybe you need to prove it instead of just saying it." "How?" Naledi thought for a moment, considering. "Give her real power. Not just businesses to manage, but actual authority in the family. Let her make decisions that matter. Show her you trust her. She's too volatile." "She's volatile because she feels powerless." Naledi interrupted. "Because she's brilliant and capable and she knows it, but everyone treats her like she's dangerous instead of valuable. Give her power and watch what she does with it." It was a risk. Naledi knew that. Seo Yan could abuse that power, could make choices driven by ego instead of strategy, could prove everyone right about her being too unstable for real authority. But Naledi had seen glimpses of who Seo Yan could be when she wasn't constantly fighting for respect. Brilliant, strategic, capable of real leadership if someone would just let her lead. "I'll think about it," Minjae said finally. 3 days later, he called a family meeting and made an announcement that shocked everyone in the room. Seo Yan will be co-leading the Northeast expansion. Equal authority with me. Equal decision-making power. Her vote carries the same weight as mine. Seo Yan stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "What's the catch?" "No catch." Minjae's voice was steady, certain. "You've proven yourself capable. The businesses you run are profitable. Your numbers are strong. You've been better lately, more controlled, more strategic." He paused. "I trust you to handle this." For the first time in Naledi's presence, Seo Yan looked genuinely moved. Her eyes went bright with something that might have been tears if she'd let them fall. "Minjae, don't make me regret this." He said it gruffly, but there was warmth beneath the words, real affection breaking through years of distance. After the meeting, Seo Yan cornered Naledi in the hallway outside the conference room. Her expression was complicated, vulnerable. "This was you. It wasn't a question. You convinced him. I might have suggested it." Why? Xiaoyan's voice was quiet, almost confused. Why do you care what happens between me and my brother? Because you deserve the chance to show what you can really do, Naledi said simply. And because your brother deserves to have his sister back. You both deserve to be family again instead of just colleagues who share a last name. I don't know how to do, that. Xiaoyan's voice cracked slightly. Be his sister again. Too much has happened. Too many things said that can't be unsaid. Too much pain. Start small. Have dinner together. Talk about something other than business. Remember why you used to care about each other. It's not that simple. It never is. But it's worth trying. Something cracked in Xiaoyan's carefully maintained armor. Her shoulders dropped. Her face softened. She looked younger suddenly, less like a crime boss and more like a woman who'd been carrying weight too heavy for too long. Thank you. She said it quietly, intensely. For not giving up on us. Everyone else did. Everyone else decided we were too broken, too damaged, too far gone. But you didn't. You're not broken, Naledi said firmly. You're hurt. There's a difference. Broken means can't be fixed. Hurt means healing is possible. Over the following months, Naledi watched the Huang siblings slowly rebuild their relationship. It wasn't perfect. They still fought over strategy and territory. Still struggled to communicate without things escalating. Still carried scars that wouldn't easily heal. But there was warmth now, where there had only been coldness. Affection threading through their arguments. Moments of genuine laughter that surprised them both. Naledi saw it in small things. The way Minjae would save articles about topics Xiaoyan was interested in. The way Xiaoyan would bring him coffee without being asked, made exactly how he liked it. The way they'd catch each other's eyes across conference rooms and share private jokes that no one else understood. They were becoming siblings again instead of just business partners bound by blood. And somewhere in that process, Naledi realized she'd become family too. Not by blood, not by obligation, but by choice. By showing up every day and refusing to let their pain define them. By being brave enough to call out their worst impulses and patient enough to understand their hurt. Xiaoyan started inviting her to family dinners. Real family events with extended relatives and traditional Korean food and conversations that mixed English and Korean seamlessly. Minjae trusted her with increasingly sensitive information, bringing her into meetings that had nothing to do with her job description. They both defended her fiercely when other family members questioned why an outsider had so much influence. She's not an outsider, Minjae said flatly when a cousin made a snide comment at a family gathering about Naledi's presence. She's one of us. She's done more for this family in 6 months than most of you have done in years. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me. The cousin shut up immediately. The message was clear. Naledi was under Minjae's protection, Xiaoyan's protection. To cross her was to cross them both. Naledi's grandmother would have found the whole situation hilarious. So, you work for gangsters now? Nana Abina asked during one of their video calls, her tone more amused than judgmental. Her weathered face filled Naledi's phone screen, familiar and beloved. They prefer business people, Naledi replied with a smile. Business people who terrify everyone in Atlanta. Her grandmother's eyes were sharp despite her age. Your mother would be horrified. Mama would understand doing what you have to do to take care of family. Perhaps. Nana Abina's expression softened, affection replacing the teasing. You sound happy, child. Tired, but happy. Different than when you first arrived in America. Are they good to you? Yes. Better than I expected. Then I am content. The old woman's face grew serious. Just be careful, little one. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Don't lose yourself in their world. Don't let their choices become your choices. I won't. I have boundaries. Good. Keep them. Her grandmother smiled. Your brother tells me they paid his tuition for next semester, that they're paying for my Medications. These are not small things, Naledi. These are the actions of people who value you. I know. Then value yourself just as much. Don't sacrifice who you are for who they need you to be. It was advice Naledi tried to remember as she navigated the increasingly complex web of Huang family politics and business. She'd set clear boundaries from the beginning, refused to be involved in anything explicitly illegal, turned away when conversations turned to violence, walked out of rooms when decisions crossed lines she wouldn't cross, maintained her own moral compass even when it would have been easier not to. Min-jae and Seo-yeon respected those boundaries, which surprised her. "You're our conscience," Seo-yeon said one day when Naledi objected to a particularly ruthless business tactic involving a competitor. "Annoying, but necessary. I'll take that as a compliment. It is one. Coming from me, anyway." 18 months after that first confrontation, after Naledi had been fired and rehired and accepted into this strange, dangerous family she never expected to find, everything changed again. Naledi was reviewing inventory reports for the Northeast expansion when her phone rang. Seo-yeon's name on the screen. The tone was urgent. "Conference room. Now. Emergency meeting." Naledi arrived to find both siblings already there, looking grim. The air in the room was tense, heavy with unspoken worry. "We have a problem," Min-jae said without preamble, without his usual careful build-up. "Someone's been feeding information to a rival organization. Details about our operations, our finances, our territories. Supply routes, security protocols, bank account numbers." "How do you know?" Naledi asked, closing the door behind her. "Because they hit 3 of our operations last night." Seo-yeon's voice was tight with barely controlled fury. Knew exactly when security would be light. Knew exactly where the cash was kept. Knew things only family would know. Someone inside the family is betraying us. Min-jae's hands were flat on the table, his knuckles white with tension. "Someone we trust has been selling us out for weeks, maybe months. Who? That's what we need to find out, and we need your help." "My help?" Naledi looked between them. "I'm not an investigator. I don't know how to—" "You're observant," Seo-yeon interrupted. "You notice things others miss, details, patterns, inconsistencies. You figured out the Peterson restaurant issue in 2 hours when our accountants missed it for months. And people trust you in ways they don't trust us," Min-jae added. "They talk around you, let their guard down. You're family, but you're also still an outsider in their eyes. They don't see you as a threat. You want me to spy on your family?" Naledi said it flatly, understanding the ask. "We want you to protect your family," Min-jae corrected gently, "because that's what you are now. Family. And this traitor could destroy everything we've built together. Everything you've helped us build. The Northeast expansion, Seo-yeon's business improvements, the relationship healing between the siblings, the legitimate growth and the slow shift toward less violent, more sustainable operations. All of it could crumble if someone was sabotaging from within." "This could get dangerous," Naledi said slowly. "If someone's betraying you, they won't hesitate to hurt anyone who gets close to the truth. We'll protect you." Seo-yeon's voice was fierce. "Anyone who touches you answers to both of us. We just need eyes and ears we can trust." Min-jae's expression was pleading in a way she'd never seen from him. "Will you help us?" Naledi looked at both of them. These 2 damaged, dangerous, unexpectedly precious people who'd somehow become her people. She thought about how far they'd come, how much they'd changed, how much she'd changed too. She thought about the young man she'd saved that first night, about choosing courage over safety, about standing up even when it was terrifying. "Okay," she said finally, "I'll help. But we do this my way. No torture, no intimidation, no violence unless absolutely necessary. We find the truth and we handle it with some semblance of humanity." Seo-yeon actually laughed, sharp and surprised. "Still trying to civilize us, Naledi? Someone has to. This, Minjai said, something warm in his voice despite the crisis. This is exactly why we need you. The investigation would be dangerous. The consequences severe. Lives hung in the balance, including possibly her own. But Naledi had stopped backing down from dangerous situations 18 months ago when she confronted the most feared woman in Atlanta's underworld in defense of a stranger she'd never met. She'd stood up to a bully then. She'd stand up for her chosen family now. And if anyone asked why a Ghanaian immigrant working as a cleaner had the audacity to challenge organized crime's hierarchy, to reform its cruelest members, to become indispensable to Atlanta's most dangerous family, Naledi would tell them what her grandmother always said. When you see wickedness and say nothing, you become part of it. She'd chosen to be part of the solution instead. Fearless, stubborn, and impossibly brave, just like she'd always been.